Get ready. I'm ready. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. Spicy Bytes. Spicy Bytes. A show everyone loves. They like it. Listen once or twice. One more. We don't care. Or you'll pay the price. Pay it. Spicy Bytes.
Wow, what a song! What a song! Welcome to episode 2 of Spicy Bytes. This is Sean and Andrew from Wasabi, coming at you live on a live stream across all of our social platforms. What can I say? It's Friday afternoon. I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling good. Andrew, how are you doing?
Love to hear it. I'm feeling good. Glad to be back. Spicy Bites number 2. Excellent.
Yes, they haven't canceled it yet. This could happen at any time. Like,
right.
You could see the bosses come in and just like yank the plug almost immediately, depending on not what I do, but more like, how you perform.
Okay. So that's,
just
I have more riding on it. That's
pressure. But that was some of the feedback that I got.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to have to, see if I can, well, I mean, you're looking dapper, I think.
Yep,
we're hitting our stride potentially in episode 2.
A little more respectable in episode 2, trying to get the light going, really just raise the production value, as it were, to go just to that next level of proness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for today's show because we're talking about one of my favorite verticals that Wasabi works with, which is media and entertainment. And as a bit of a media figure and entertainer myself, I feel like I'm the type of guy that can bring this kind of coverage, this kind of hard-hitting analysis. That's what I bring to this.
An industry ambassador.
An industry ambassador, thought leader.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, just to be clear, I'm just a Wasabi marketing guy. They kind of keep me around to just make videos and memes and things like that. Andrew, can you talk a little bit about your background?
I'm responsible for strategy and market intelligence at Wasabi, but pretty much spent about 10 years on the analyst side covering cloud storage and infrastructure services. And that's what day to day I'm focused on, is kind of how to make Wasabi successful compared to our competitors in different verticals across different regions, right? All the above, and to keep a pulse on the cloud storage market as it grows, as it evolves, all that good stuff.
Yep. And today we'll be talking about the pulse of the media and entertainment industry, which is thrilling. So let's just get started with some questions. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, here's our first question from me to you.
Yeah. The music. Where do you?
Did you like that music?
I did. Yeah. So we released. Well, I didn't even do the majority of the work on this, to be honest. My colleague, I worked closely with Ben Bonadies to come up with a media and entertainment oriented kind of industry report, and so that was a subsegment of the cloud storage index. I think we talked about the cloud storage index a little bit in the first Spicy Bytes episode, but it was a survey, right? So market research, independent, sponsored by Wasabi, to get reliable data on what's going on with end users of cloud storage. That was the goal. We surveyed 1,000 respondents, fielded that back in December, got the data in January. So we've been talking about it all year, right? We're already in June. It's kind of crazy. But within that survey, 1,000 respondents, we had about like 150 M&E respondents. So as a respondent, you had to answer all these questions, and you had to say what industry you were from.
I'm going to stop you there because this actually starts to answer my second question. So let me just bring that up for a second.
Okay.
So
They were not unsatisfied.
Let me ask the full question now. Was
Okay.
there some feedback about the first cloud index where they were like, okay, this is fine, but it's very high level. We want something down, down into this specific vertical. Almost as if they said, Andrew, you didn't quite get it right?
No.
We need some more.
So it's a sub-segmentation of the total survey. So I'm sure, as you are, when you get web-based surveys in the mail, in your email, you're like, I'm going to drop everything that I'm doing and go answer this right
I
now.
definitely do that.
Because they are thrilling. No, we work with a third party to kind of get the responses. They own a panel of these they manage a panel of survey respond what's the word I'm looking for? Survey takers. What's the better word for that?
Respondents.
Respondents. I kept wanting to say respondee. So they're managing the survey respondents, and out of the 1,000, 140 were M&E. So it's all the same data. It's just we're segmenting it by just those people from the M&E vertical. So not as if they were like, hey, you got these questions totally wrong. It's just that we wanted to drill into like, hey, exclude everybody else, take everybody else, all 850 other respondents off the table. Let's look at just how those M&E respondents answered these questions. And that is the basis for kind of the M&E report.
Got it. Thanks for walking us through that on a step-by-step basis. I think a lot of people were kind of wondering about that and maybe concerned that, I don't know, the first one wasn't as good as it could have been, but that's not the case. So I think at this point we can move on. Do you want to talk about maybe like the big findings from the Media and Entertainment Cloud Index?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess the reason why when we did the cloud storage index, we had worldwide results. We segmented those by region because a lot of times you get different dynamics by region, APAC, EMEA, North America only. And then one of the industries that really stuck out was M&E, not only because it's an industry that Wasabi does a good job serving, but because there were some interesting differences in how that vertical was answering some of the key questions. So the stuff around like budget and data growth was the same across industry. M&E, like the global average, was intended to expand their cloud storage footprint, and they intended to spend more over the next year. So those are all good. But the thing that stuck out to me was when we asked respondents to self-identify, their self-identify grouped themselves into a cloud strategy bucket. There were 3 buckets. One was like our organization is balanced, meaning we take a mix. For IT initiatives, we take a mixed approach to it. Things will usually include both cloud and on-premises initiatives. And then there was cloud first, which is the, kind of name describes what it is. All of our IT initiatives, we choose kind of cloud. We go to cloud as the first thing. And then traditional, which is we prefer kind of owned on-premises systems and software. Cloud is not usually our first or second or maybe even our third choice. So those were the buckets that respondents identified into. And for the overall survey, 41% said they consider themselves cloud first, which is great from a Wasabi perspective. But when we asked just M&E, that dropped down to 35%. So overall, I don't want to insult the M&E crowd or the industry, but what my takeaway, looking at the data, going through, comparing to the worldwide averages, in a lot of areas like that self-identification, M&E kind of lagged below what I would say is the industry, the overall standard or the overall average. Even when it came to, like, we asked what capacity do you store in the public cloud, and we asked respondents to estimate that. M&E was at kind of the lower end of the pack by industry. Most other industries said we store an average of 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 petabytes in the cloud, and then we had to go all the way down the list. M&E's all the way down at 10.5, right? They're kind of the second smallest by volume by industry. So I don't want to call them laggards, but they're kind of giving me laggard vibes on the M&E side when it comes to cloud storage. And that's not a bad thing, but then it gets into like, well, you start to think about what is the opportunity? What are the challenges preventing migration, or what are the technical challenges? At what pace is M&E adopting cloud solutions and kind of flipping that proportion of IT spend from on-premises to cloud? So I guess I don't even know if I've kind of like rambled way beyond your original question, but those are some of the key takeaways. Was that M&E has a lot of room to grow into the cloud storage market, and it seems by all accounts like a massive opportunity area.
One thing that I know from my time working in music technology for a little bit is that especially music producers and musicians love kind of analog recording techniques, and they're kind of loath to try new things sometimes because they're trying to achieve a sound that was maybe first created in
the
mid 60s or something. So I think sometimes aesthetically, artists, producers, directors are like, okay, well, I'm trying to achieve this older look and feel. And I think sometimes that filters down to, the post-production guys and the folks making the decisions. So they're like, okay, well, we have these techniques and these processes that we've used for decades, and we're not going to jump into something that's maybe on the newer side or is just not something that has become a best practice within the industry. But
yeah, go
ahead.
This is a good point, because you're dealing with like M&E. I feel like you're dealing with an industry that is significantly established in their ways of doing business and producing their end product, right? Which is video, audio. So I think what you're talking about is like the pace of digitization of all of those workflows is definitely a little bit slower, and all of those assets need to be digitized. They need new software platforms. They need to meet new security standards. So yeah, I think it's a pretty complicated task and an expensive task for a lot of these guys to make that move over to having all of their workflows done digitally, as opposed to kind of the traditional way of working.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the news stories from this week that I saw was Paul McCartney is, I think, through the Beatles Corporation, releasing a new song with John Lennon's voice on it, but they had to use AI to extract his voice from a tape that had been recorded on a boombox. So that technology is relatively new. So you not only have to take something that is incredibly analog, like literally a cassette tape, get it into the digital domain, and then apply an AI, which somehow pulls out that voice, and then put it into something totally different and create an arrangement around it. Which just
That's
goes
wild.
To, it speaks to the explosion of AI around music in particular. And I know obviously film and TV as well. It's just incredible. You're going to need so much storage to do all this stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing we're glossing over is just the capacity required, right? Video movie files.
Yeah.
In 4K or 1080p are probably between, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 gigabytes to 15 gigabytes.
Yeah.
And think about how many times that file is replicated, distributed, worked on by multiple parties.
Yeah.
You know, archived copies, secondary archive copies, all that stuff. It's just like the storage requirements can quickly add up to these massive volumes.
It reminds me of a story about when they made the Lord of the Rings movies, the first ones in the early 2000s, I think late 90s even, they would take all this digital film and they would, obviously they'd back it up, but then they'd give somebody a hard drive. They would get on a plane in New Zealand and then fly to London where the stuff would get worked on. And then obviously once it gets worked on and it's got to go back, it's got to fly back for that collaboration to happen. And now obviously with cloud collaboration, you can have all of these stakeholders and different producers and post-production professionals working on stuff, which is obviously way more efficient and I would imagine more secure.
And then the plug back to Wasabi is, I think why we're seeing a lot of success in this industry is because we allow kind of that movement of data without penalty or associated fees. Because the other thing we saw in the Cloud Index was that no matter what industry you were in or what geography you were in, you incurred a significant fees were a challenge, regardless of what you were doing. That capacity, what you were paying on capacity versus what you were being charged in egress on your bill or in fees on your bill, whether it's egress or API charges or data migration fees, it was always like that 50-50 or close to split. So it's like we're not only helping that use case become a reality and the digitization of the business, but also keeping it a reasonable, predictable cost.
Right. So the last thing you want to do is have to call up the producer from set and say, we need like $100 million more because our AWS bill just came in.
Right.
All right. Well, let's see what our next question is. I don't even remember what it is. So this is as big of a surprise to me as it is to you.
All right, send it up.
Okay, so basically, I was wondering about the title of index. You know, when I think about index, what is an index? Is it a reference?
Well, you're thinking about like index cards and flashcards, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
You put Spanish
definitely
word
nightmares. Yep.
Flip it over. Yeah.
Yep. Or your times tables, right?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Again, not my idea to call it the index. I think, but it's a great idea. And
oh, wow, you're throwing.
No, I'm not throwing someone under the bus. I'm saying I wasn't even that creative. I think the index is great.
Got it.
Lindsay came up with the name to call it the Cloud Storage Index, so she gets all the credit for that. But
Lindsay Daly, our PR person,
yes,
a genius. She's at branding things and naming things.
So an index is just kind of like I don't know. When we think about an index in the context of markets, it's just kind of like a way to think about how a market is performing or where the market is moving, right? And that's really what we want this data to show, is to show what the cloud storage market, to act as a source of truth for the cloud storage market. So I think that's where kind of the idea for index came from.
If I was studying for a media and entertainment test, I would use the cloud index in a similar way to index cards from when I was in
pie chart on one side,
exactly,
and then the question on the other or something.
Right, that's right. So in a lot of ways, again, very astute questions from me. All right, let's move on then. Okay, so what are some of your favorite forms of media and entertainment? Are you like a comic book guy? Are you like a Magic the Gathering type of guy? Are you like a anime?
No, I don't have I'm not don't have a very eclectic media and entertainment taste, I guess.
Kind of a
I guess
basic Brandon.
pretty basic. Yeah, like I spend a lot of time, like I think a lot of people do, watching YouTube videos. Twitch is one, and other than that, streaming content,
Are
and
you
then
too
video.
old
We
to be
gotta say we
watching
gotta.
Twitch?
What's that?
Are you too old to be watching Twitch? Kind of.
I'm probably over that threshold. Yeah,
Yeah.
I should probably be keeping it a secret now.
I feel like there's always just like somebody in the bottom right hand corner like clicking for loco or something, and just like talking about gaming on Twitch. I don't really know what goes on there.
But I mean, Twitch they have adult, big, responsible content as well. They have tech content on there that's usually streamed by providers, and they'll do like live coding sessions or like hackathon sessions and stuff like that. So you can get you can get some interesting content.
Okay, so I'm just like way out of my depth here. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, you're probably just watching what your kids are watching on Twitch, right? Is that, and you're looking over and
My son will pretty much just watch gaming personalities, which is, I don't really understand that at all. But
gaming's the other big M&E segment, right? It's probably, gaming's got to be one of the biggest now. I mean, by revenue, I would assume. It's just massive when you think about like even the cost of games and consoles now. I mean, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but
yeah, please do.
You're like, I was buying an N64 in 1999 for, I don't know, $100, $200 for a console. What are the new Xbox and PlayStation consoles, like $500, $600?
Yeah,
that's way past probably inflation. I mean, and then games are $70 for games now. Crazy.
Well, the role player games look like movies now, and the movies and the games are kind of like combining into a similar thing. And also, when we were growing up, or at least when I was, because I don't think we're similar ages at all. When I was growing up, movies were like the huge thing. It was just this like monolith of entertainment. And now, obviously, with streaming, TV is huge with Netflix and all the streaming services. But then, the gaming piece is like, is gaming going to take over eventually, like as our largest form of entertainment, you think?
That's a great question. I thought last year, I thought we were all supposed to be consumed by the metaverse as our form of entertainment, and now that's just completely disappeared. So I don't know what's going on anymore.
That's a really great point. Like there was a point not too long ago where there was a land grab for metaverse like addresses and things like that. Like people with good pedigrees and backgrounds were like buying land in the metaverse.
Like digital real estate.
Yes.
Yeah. So who knows? Your guess is as good as mine on that. But yeah, I think you made a good point. There's kind of this like blurring of the lines between cinematic quality and video games, and it's like it's like you're playing and watching your own movie at the same time in some cases.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
Black Mirror season 6 came out yesterday, I think, in the first episode. I don't know if you've seen it, but the first episode is about a woman. The show is called Joan is Awful, and it's they turn on Netflix. Oh, here comes my dog. They turn on Netflix, and the show is about their day. So they're watching themselves go throughout their day. And then the whole world sees what they're doing. And then it just becomes this, like Salma Hayek is playing the main character. And then on the TV show, Cate Blanchett is playing her character.
That's crazy.
Yep.
I will definitely be watching that.
Yeah. And they obviously are using a lot of cloud storage on that show. So I'm going to bring that back around. All right. Question 5.
Well done. You keep putting a different title under your name in every picture. That's great.
Not at all.
That's great. I feel like we kind of talked about it, right? Different forms of media entertainment. Yeah.
I think we already covered that one.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Okay, so is there an opportunity for Wasabi to become an entertainment studio?
I mean, you got to hand it to our brand marketing team, you included. Potentially, sky's the limit for Wasabi from a branding perspective, right?
Our creative team is like none other in the business. We're ready to, like, we could probably just make a movie in-house.
Right.
Maybe that's something for Q3. If we could get like 50 mil to make something about an up and coming startup, who's fighting against all the other, hyperscalers and
right.
the plucky content team
on the mean streets of Boston,
Main
right?
Street, Boston. Yeah, a lot of
Yep.
a lot of Boston references.
Yep. We get Matt Damon or Mark Wahlberg to play Wasabi, the person.
You don't know what Wasabi's going to be like, brother. It's going to be the best startup in the country. Next question. I think this is question 6. Oh, already did that one. Could I play myself in this potential Wasabi movie?
I think so. Last week, if you would have asked me last week, I would have said no. But this week, with your hair, with the hair done, and the nice shirt on with the back, you have like a, the modern background of. I mean, absolutely.
There's a big upside here. A lot of people think that I'm, for better or for worse, just kind of a slovenly person, but I clean up nicely, and I can complete sentences that are, on a teleprompter, hopefully, because my memory's really remember anything. All right, let's move on. Okay, so sports.
Yeah.
The digitization of sports has obviously been in process for decades at this point. Where's this going? How are our teams using data to inform their strategies, both on the front of house and in managing teams? And
yeah, I think this is it's easy to forget that sports, there's a big M&E component to sports. Sometimes I get like tunnel visioned on just, movie production or audio or something when I think about M&E. But yeah, sports is driving a lot of the evolution in this industry, not only because they have to digitize decades of analog records of video, but also because they're as part of their best interest to grow with changing demographics of who watches sports, they're expanding into so many different platforms. We're back to online streaming. Think about how, there's, I think, Twitch has like Thursday Night Football, right? They're on streaming platforms. You have all the regional distributors who are streaming content on their apps and their platforms, right? In New England, we have Nesson, who does the Red Sox on major cable TV, but also on their own streaming platform. So you think about, and then you've got clips of content distributed to YouTube, everywhere else on social media. So it's just like a exponential growth of the outlets that sports teams want to feed content into. And that is, again, when you think about the storage implications and the implications on the workflows on the technology side, on the IT side for these clubs or teams, it's pretty significant. So again, I guess I don't have a good way to summarize it other than try to talk about it's an explosion of content.
It's really an explosion of content. One of the really interesting things that I heard last week at the Fenway Tech Summit, which we had over at Fenway Park, we hosted a bunch of sports IT professionals, folks from the teams around Boston. And
I'm bitter that you were there. You got invited.
I got an invite.
Oh my
Bit of
gosh.
a man about town, bit of
I
a
did. Yeah.
VIP, so I got the invite. Actually, I was there capturing content, so it's not the big deal. So one of the very cool stories that I heard was somebody mentioned the St. Louis Blues coach. I think his name is Doug Armstrong, and he was talking about now the data is being used to coach the players specifically. So, like, for example, he was like, a lot of the younger players will, score a highlight goal and then go home and watch themselves on YouTube and look at all the likes and the comments and stuff. And they're like, great, I did my job. I'm a star and all this. And he's like, we actually use the data that we collect to show them all these other areas where they need to be performing. And then, they measure it, and then they say, like, we want you to be here by the end of the season and things like that. So they're capturing all this stuff on video. All these statistics are going into, something that they'll bring to the broadcast teams to tell a story there. Yeah. And then even this data is being used by the new betting platforms, because there's all these different things that you can bet on, essentially. So like your DraftKings and they say, what's the percentage of that Pasternak's going to take a shot from this area, like at this time, and like you can bet on that, and they have those stats. So it's fascinating how all these things, when we were growing up, is like you had one media stream, you saw what was on TV,
one camera angle.
Yeah, one camera angle from like center field with the pitcher.
Yeah.
And then
that's a great point.
A show afterwards, but now it's all feeding into it itself.
Yeah, that's a great point. The content end of stuff we see is probably, like, that I was focused on, is probably more like the tip of the iceberg when you think about all the stuff you're talking about, which is the back end stuff that they're using for operations and that they're using to improve their athletes' performance and improve their broadcast performance. It's just it's crazy to think about just how much digital content is being generated for these guys.
One of the other things that was mentioned that was really cool was the idea of, you have your digital ticket, right? And they want to be able to get to a place where if you have your digital ticket, you just like walk into the stadium and you use that around. It's all like, you don't need to touch anything. You don't need to use cash. You don't need to use a credit card. Everything that you're doing is like tied to your digital imprint.
That's terrifying. Yeah. Imagine getting home from the game and you look at your bank account and you're like, I got charged for 16 $20 beers. Like, yeah, that's wow.
Is that what your receipts look like when you go to
if you could just grab them off the shelf, like it was
I hadn't even thought about the implications of that. That is kind of terrifying. You're like, wait, right. That's 7 hot dogs? Like,
yeah, wait.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to know that.
I mean, it's great customer service or customer engagement from their part, right? You never need to worry about, you probably just walk through the entrance, you're scanned and approved to go in. You can wander around, grab that's great. Lessening any of the barriers to entry for those games.
Right on. All right, shall we go to question 10?
Yes.
As we commented on last week, you have a headset that makes you appear as a telemarketer or a helicopter pilot, which is actually a lot cooler, I think. But I'm wondering, since you are kind of a connoisseur of like head wearables, what you thought of the Apple Vision Pro goggles.
So I've seen pictures of them in like headlines. And don't they kind of just look like fancy ski goggles?
They do.
Yeah. So I am a stalwart,
good word,
pessimist when it comes to anything that you need to wear on your face that is tech related. Like I just feel like until how until it's like in a sunglass size package, then forget about it. But I mean, it's crazy to think about that coming to market with what Meta has been trying to push over the past year with the metaverse and their VR platform. So I don't know. It's Apple, so it looks great. We'll see how it performs, I guess.
Let's imagine a world where that becomes like a standard in the way that a laptop is now. If that becomes a standard, you're going to have to imagine that the data usage for those things is just going to be absolutely through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of streaming, we talk a lot about like the environments you're connected to, right? Whether it's at the edge, whether it's at the core, or whether it's cloud. And a lot of these, like you're going to be connecting to these devices probably over, you're going to need a high speed 5G interface, right? If it's collecting all this data and you're sending stuff back and forth, that's all going to have to be accessed at the edge. Then it's going to have to be transported to the cloud for processing, storage, all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. If all of a sudden everybody's got this thing on their face that's collecting all this telemetry for what they're doing and what their friends are doing and what's happening on social media around them, and everybody's all these, like, it could be, if you put your I think you put your futurist hat on, that's what you were, tech futurist.
That's part of my profile. Yes,
they're chasing the next thing after
Web 4.0.
No, like the thing that was the iPhone, right? The iPhone generated this whole ecosystem of apps, right? And so that's what the idea is, right? Now people are going to be developing apps for your VR goggles, and you're going to access apps that way. It'll be a whole different API interface, a whole different development platform that's going to drive all this. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's only going. There's only going to be more data needed, not less, in any event. All right, I think we have a final question here. It's gone by so quickly. I see, the 3 people watching are like, they're having just an incredible time. They're
good.
They're informed, and they're just better people overall after having watched.
Definitely,
let's do this last question first before we start to pat ourselves on the back.
Okay.
I guess this is more of like a, how's this going? Where are we at? This is the end of Spicy Bytes, episode 2. This, we should be the show should be rounding into form. The format is working. Where are we at? How are you feeling about things?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. It's nice to have a forum to talk about Wasabi and like bigger picture technology implications. And we talked about a lot of like consumer side stuff that usually you don't spend too much time on the enterprise, but everything's applicable in a way. Obviously, I think your questions have been excellent, insightful, so much so that you've even got it's totally changed your look, right?
Yeah, I've already like leveled up in 1 week.
I know, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Next week, I'm just going to be wearing like a top hat and a monocle, just like really come around.
Yeah, and you'll be in a castle or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going. I think it's going quite well, because I think we've got sirens in the background now. Good. I think Wasabi underlies so many cool technologies, applications, in whole industries, and we don't get too much of a chance to talk about how amazing those things are. So it's been a great opportunity to do that. So, and
we're infrastructure, right? Wasabi is storage, and a lot of times storage and infrastructure is at kind of the bottom of the pyramid and can be some of the least sexy and exciting stuff. But really, you quickly get to the exciting stuff as you go up the stack, and none of it would be possible without the right infrastructure. So it's like, it's definitely fun to talk about this from more of a, I guess, a top down, or more of a I don't know, pop culture media centric type of way. It's a good
That's stuff that
perspective.
I can understand. On that note, we'll put the index in the comments. I want everybody to download it, check it out, with some really great statistics about cloud storage and M&E.
Yep.
Other than that, I think we had a great show. We said it all. We did it all. You brought it.
We went 10 minutes over.
We went 10 minutes over. You brought the insight. I am also here. So, we did great.
Yes. And thank you, Sean, for having me again. Spicy Bytes number 2 in the books.
In the books. We did
Wrap it up. Fantastic. Thanks for everybody for listening. All three
Everyone
viewers.
Have a great weekend, and
Yep.
give your dad a hug. Okay.
Mm.
Later.